I walked into my mother's house and found my 6-year-old son curled up on the floor, sobbing, his shirt lifted just enough to show deep red welts across his back. And my sister? She was standing over him, holding a belt, smiling. And my mom, my own mother, looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Don't call the cops. You'll ruin her life." That was the exact moment I realized. I didn't have a family anymore. Stick with me. My name is Alara Whitcomb. I'm 29, a single mom, and I've been working double shifts at a clinic just to keep our life together. It wasn't easy, but I thought I had help. I trusted my family. I trusted my older sister, Corinne, to watch my son Milo while I worked. Looking back now, I see the signs I ignored. Corinne had a short temper. She would snap over small things. Sometimes she made comments that didn't sit right with me, like saying I was raising a weak boy, or that Milo needed to be toughened up. I didn't like it, but I brushed it off. I told myself she didn't mean it. And my mom, Darlene, always defended her. "Corinne just cares," she would say. "You're too sensitive." So I kept quiet. I kept trusting them. Until that day. When I saw Milo on that floor, shaking and crying, something inside me broke. I rushed to him, my heart racing, my hands trembling. But the moment I tried to touch him, he flinched. He flinched from me. Like I was the one who hurt him. That hurt more than anything else. "Don't," he whispered, his voice small and scared. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Behind me, Corinne sighed like she was annoyed. "He needs discipline," she said, like this was normal. "You're too soft on him." I turned to my mom, hoping, just hoping, she would say something, anything, to stop this. But she didn't. She nodded. And in that moment, everything became clear. This wasn't new. This wasn't the first time. And the worst part, they were never going to stop. Alara drove home with shaking hands, her heart still racing. Milo sat quietly in the back seat, holding his small arms close to his body like he was trying to protect himself. The silence in the car felt heavy, almost painful. She wanted to ask him so many questions, but the fear in his eyes stopped her. When they got home, she helped him out of his shoes and sat him gently on the couch. She brought him a blanket and his favorite juice, trying to make him feel safe again. But Milo didn't speak. He just stared at the floor, quiet and distant. Alara knelt in front of him. "Baby, you can tell me anything," she said softly. "You're safe now." Milo shook his head quickly. "I can't," he whispered. Her chest tightened. "Why not?" He hesitated, then said in a small voice, "Aunt Corinne said I'll get her in trouble." That scared Alara more than anything. She took a deep breath and kept her voice calm. "You're not in trouble. You didn't do anything wrong." But Milo still looked unsure. His little hands twisted the edge of the blanket. It took time. A lot of time. Alara stayed patient, sitting beside him, holding his hand, letting him feel that she wasn't going anywhere. Finally, after what felt like forever, Milo spoke again. "She did it before," he said quietly. Alara felt her heart drop. "More than once." He nodded. Tears filled her eyes, but she forced herself to stay strong. "What happened, sweetheart?" "She hits me when I'm bad," he said, repeating the word like he didn't fully understand it. "And she said if I tell you, she'll be really mad." Alara swallowed hard. "Did anyone see?" Milo nodded again. "Grandma." Alara froze. "Grandma saw." "Yeah," he said. "She just watches." That broke something deep inside her. All this time her mother knew. Alara pulled Milo into her arms carefully, making sure not to hurt him. He held onto her tightly this time, like he finally felt safe enough to let go. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I'm so sorry." That night, after Milo finally fell asleep, Alara sat alone in the dark. The house was quiet, but her mind was loud. Every memory came back. Every time she left Milo at that house, every time she ignored her gut feeling, every excuse she made. She thought she was doing her best. But now it felt like she failed him. Tears rolled down her face as one painful truth settled in her heart. This wasn't just abuse. It was betrayal. The next morning, Alara didn't hesitate. She dropped Milo off at school, kissed his forehead a little longer than usual, and promised him she would handle everything. He looked nervous, but he nodded. That gave her just enough strength to drive straight to her mother's house. Her hands were steady this time. Her mind was clear. She knocked once, then walked in. Corinne was in the living room like nothing had happened. Sitting on the couch, scrolling on her phone. Calm. Relaxed. Like she hadn't hurt a child. Darlene was in the kitchen, making coffee. Alara's voice came out cold. "We need to talk." Both of them looked at her, but neither seemed worried. That hurt more than anger would have. What's the problem now? Corinne said, rolling her eyes. Alara stepped closer. You hit my son. Corinne let out a small laugh, like it was a joke. Oh please, don't start that again. Darlene walked in, holding her mug. Alara, it wasn't that bad, she said calmly. Not that bad. Alara felt her chest tighten. He has marks on his back. He was acting out, Corinne said quickly. He's a difficult child. You just don't see it because you're too soft. Alara stared at her in disbelief. He's 6. And, Corinne snapped. Kids need discipline. Alara turned to her mother, hoping, just one more time, that she would do the right thing. But Darlene just sighed. You're overreacting. That word hit hard. Overreacting. My son is scared of you, Alara said, her voice shaking now. He thought he would get in trouble for telling me. Corinne crossed her arms. Maybe because you baby him too much. Honestly, Alara, you're not exactly a great mother. That stung. Alara felt tears burn her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You're calling me unfit? She asked quietly. I'm just saying the truth, Corinne replied with a shrug. Darlene stepped in again. Listen, calling the police over this would destroy Corinne's future. Do you really want that? Alara looked at her slowly. That was it. That was the moment everything became clear. This wasn't about right or wrong to her mother. It was about protecting Corinne. At any cost. Even if it meant ignoring what happened to Milo. Even if it meant hurting her own daughter. Alara felt something inside her go cold. Her mother wasn't neutral. She wasn't trying to fix things. She had already chosen a side. And it wasn't hers. Alara drove home in silence, but her mind was louder than ever. Every word from her mother and sister replayed again and again. You're overreacting. He's a difficult child. You'll ruin her life. Her hands tightened on the steering wheel. She felt torn in two. One part of her still held on to the idea of family. The memories. The hope that maybe things could be fixed. That maybe they would realize they were wrong. But the other part of her, the stronger part, knew the truth. When she got home, she found Milo asleep on the couch. He looked so small, curled up under a blanket, his face still soft with childhood. Alara sat beside him quietly. Then she saw it. Even in his sleep, Milo flinched. His little body jerked suddenly, like he was trying to escape something. A nightmare. A memory he couldn't control. Alara's heart broke all over again. That was it. That was the moment the choice became clear. This wasn't about family anymore. This was about her son. She gently brushed his hair back, her eyes filling with tears. I'm not going to let anyone hurt you again, she whispered. And she meant it. Even if it cost her everything. Even if it meant losing her mother. Even if it meant destroying whatever was left of that family. Alara stood up slowly, her sadness turning into something stronger. Something steady. She walked to her room and grabbed her phone. If they wanted to deny it, if they wanted to lie, she would make sure the truth couldn't be ignored. She went back to Milo and carefully lifted his shirt just enough to take clear pictures of the marks on his back. Her hands trembled, but she didn't stop. She took more than one, making sure every detail was visible. Then she sat down with a notebook. She wrote everything. Every word Milo had said. Every detail he remembered. Every time he mentioned his aunt hitting him. Every time he said his grandmother watched and did nothing. She didn't trust her memory alone. She wanted it all recorded. Next, she started looking into getting him checked by a doctor. Something official. Something no one could deny. This was no longer just about feelings or arguments. This was about proof. This was about protection. Alara wiped her tears and took a deep breath. She wasn't just a hurt daughter anymore. She was a mother ready to fight. And this time, she was going to do it the right way. Quietly. Carefully. Strategically. The next morning, Alara woke up early. She barely slept, but her mind was clear. She helped Milo get ready, moving gently, careful not to hurt him. He was quiet, still a little scared, but he stayed close to her. We're going to see a doctor today, she told him softly. Milo looked up at her. Am I in trouble? Her heart ached. No, baby. Not at all. The doctor just wants to help you feel better. He nodded slowly. At the clinic, Alara filled out the forms with steady hands. She didn't rush. She made sure everything was correct. Every detail mattered now. When they were called in, the pediatrician greeted them kindly. Milo stayed close to Alara, holding her hand tightly. The doctor spoke gently, asking simple questions, trying to make Milo feel safe. Then came the part Alara had been preparing for. Can I take a look? The doctor asked. Alara nodded. She helped lift Milo's shirt carefully. The moment the doctor saw the marks, everything changed. Her expression became serious. Focused. She didn't brush it off. She didn't question it. She knew. These are not normal injuries, the doctor said quietly. Alara felt a strange mix of pain and relief. Someone finally saw it. Someone believed it. The doctor asked a few more careful questions, writing things down. Milo answered in small, nervous words, but he spoke. And that was enough. The doctor stepped out for a moment, then came back and explained calmly. I'm required to report this. It's to make sure your child is safe. Alara nodded without hesitation. I understand. This was what she wanted. This was what needed to happen. Everything moved quickly after that. Reports were filed. Calls were made. Questions were asked. Authorities were now involved. And for the first time since this started, Alara didn't feel confused or lost. She felt in control. She didn't call her mother. She didn't warn Corinne. She didn't give them time to prepare excuses or twist the story. No, she stayed silent. She wanted them to feel it the way she did. The shock. The fear. The moment when everything changes without warning. For once, they wouldn't be ready. As she walked out of the clinic, holding Milo's hand, she looked down at him and gave a small, reassuring smile. You're safe, she said. Milo squeezed her hand back. And Alara knew this was only the beginning. But it was the right beginning. The first real step. The first strike. That afternoon, everything started to fall apart. Alara didn't have to be there to know what was happening, but part of her still drove past the house. She parked a little down the street, her hands resting on the steering wheel, her heart steady but heavy. A police car was already outside. Another one pulled up just minutes later. The front door opened, and officers stepped inside without hesitation. For years, that house had looked perfect from the outside. Clean yard, quiet street, friendly smiles. No one would ever guess what was happening behind those walls. But now neighbors were watching. Curtains moved. People stood outside pretending not to stare. The image was cracking. Inside, Corinne was being questioned. At first, she tried to act calm. Confident. Like she could talk her way out of it. It was just discipline, she said, crossing her arms. Kids need to learn. But the officers didn't react the way she expected. They didn't nod. They didn't agree. They kept asking questions. Clear. Direct. Serious. Her confidence started to slip. Well, he was acting out, she added, her voice less steady now. I didn't hurt him that bad. That made it worse. She wasn't denying it. She was admitting it, trying to justify it. And every word only tightened the situation around her. Darlene, on the other hand, was panicking. This is a misunderstanding, she said quickly, stepping in again and again. We're a good family. This isn't what it looks like. She tried to control the conversation, to speak over Corinne, to calm the officers. But it was too late. The truth was already out. And no one was ignoring it anymore. Outside, more neighbors had gathered. Whispers spread. The perfect family. Everyone believed in was falling apart right in front of them. From her car, Alara watched quietly. She didn't feel happy. She didn't feel proud. But she didn't feel weak anymore either. After a while, Darlene stepped outside, her face tight with anger. Her eyes searched the street until they landed on Alara's car. She walked straight toward it. Alara didn't move. When Darlene reached her, she didn't knock. She just stared through the window, her expression full of blame. You did this, she said sharply when Alara rolled the window down. Alara looked at her calmly. There were no tears this time. No hesitation. No, she said quietly. You did. Darlene's face twisted, but she had no answer. Because deep down, she knew it was true. After the police visit, everything changed for Alara. Her phone started ringing nonstop. At first, she thought someone might be checking on Milo. Maybe someone would finally understand. But she was wrong. The calls were angry. Her aunt. Her cousins. Even people she barely spoke to anymore. Alara, how could you do this to your sister? You went too far. She made a mistake. You didn't have to destroy her life. The words came one after another, sharp and heavy. Some didn't even wait for her to explain. They just talked over her, blaming her, as if she was the one who caused all of this. One cousin said, "Family is supposed to protect family." That made Alara almost laugh. Protect who? She wanted to ask. Protect the child who was hurt? But no one wanted to hear that part. Within a day, some family members stopped talking to her completely. Social media messages disappeared. Group chats went quiet. She was removed, blocked, erased like she didn't matter anymore. For a moment, Alara sat in her kitchen, staring at her phone in silence. She should have felt broken. But she didn't. Instead, she felt something strange. Lighter. Like a weight she had been carrying for years was slowly being taken off her shoulders. No more pretending. No more excuses. No more forcing herself to be part of something that didn't protect her child. That realization hurt, but it also freed her. For the first time, she saw it clearly. They were never really on her side. Not when it mattered. Not when Milo was hurt. Only when it was easy. Meanwhile, something else was changing too. Milo. At first, he was still quiet. Careful. Watching everything like he didn't trust the world yet. But little by little, he started to relax at home. He began talking more. Small things at first. About school. About cartoons. About what he liked for dinner. One evening, he even laughed softly at something Alara said. It was quick, almost like he didn't mean to do it. But Alara noticed. And it stayed with her. At night, he started sleeping a little better. Not perfect, but better. Fewer sudden movements. Fewer scared whispers. One day, he looked at her and asked, "You're not going to leave me there again, right?" Alara knelt beside him immediately. "Never," she said. "I promise." He nodded, like he was trying to believe it. And that was enough for now. Because even if the rest of her world was falling apart, this part was finally healing. And for Alara, that was the only thing that mattered anymore. The courtroom felt colder than Alara expected. She sat quietly in the front row, hands folded tightly in her lap. Everything around her was serious, heavy, and very real. There was no yelling now, no family voices trying to twist the truth. Just silence, order, and facts. Corinne sat at the other table, no longer looking confident. Her face was pale, her eyes tired. She kept shifting in her seat, like she wanted to disappear. Darlene sat behind her, tense and restless, as if she could still fix everything with words. But she couldn't. The charges were clear. Child abuse. The evidence had already been reviewed. Medical reports. Photos. Written statements. Everything Alara had carefully gathered. When the prosecutor spoke, the room stayed quiet. Every detail was laid out carefully, step by step. There was no exaggeration. Just truth. Then came Darlene's turn. She stood up quickly, almost too quickly, like she was trying to take control before it slipped away completely. "It was discipline," she said. "Nothing serious. Kids need structure." But as she spoke, the lawyers brought out evidence that didn't match her words. Medical notes. Doctor statements. Timeline details. Her confidence began to break. "That's not how it happened," she insisted, her voice rising. "You're making this worse than it is." But every sentence she said only made things worse for Corinne. She wasn't helping her daughter. She was confirming the problem. Corinne's lawyer tried to calm things, but it was too late. Then Alara was called. She stood up slowly, walked to the stand, and took a deep breath. Her voice was steady, even though her heart was not. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She just told the truth. Everything she had seen. Everything Milo had told her. Everything she had tried to ignore before it became impossible. The courtroom listened. No interruptions. No judgment. Just silence. When she finished, she sat down again, feeling drained but strong. The judge looked through the documents carefully. He asked a few questions. Clarifications. Details. But his tone was serious. This was not something being brushed aside. This was not being called family discipline. It was being treated for what it really was. The truth. And for the first time since it all began, Alara felt like someone outside her family finally understood. The days after the court hearing felt slow and heavy. Alara didn't rush to check updates. She didn't need to. She already knew the truth would come out fully now. The system had taken over what she could no longer carry alone. A few weeks later, the final decision came. Corinne accepted a plea deal. It wasn't the worst outcome legally, but it was still life-changing. The charges stayed on her record. Not erased. Not hidden. Permanent. She avoided jail time, but she did not avoid consequences. Her career plans collapsed overnight. The opportunities she once talked about, jobs, future goals moving forward, were all gone now. Employers wouldn't take the risk. Her name carried weight she could not escape. For Corinne, it was like watching her entire future quietly shut down. And for Darlene, the reaction was different. She wasn't thinking about Milo. She wasn't talking about what happened to him. She only talked about Corinne. "She's ruined now," she kept saying. Her life is destroyed. That was what hurt Alara the most. Not anger. Not shouting. Just that her mother still couldn't see past Corinne. Still couldn't say the words, she hurt a child. To Darlene, the real tragedy was not what happened to Milo. It was what happened to Corinne. And that told Alara everything she needed to know. There was no more confusion left in her heart. No more hoping her mother would change. No more waiting for accountability that would never come. One evening, Alara sat alone in her apartment. Milo was asleep in the next room, finally resting peacefully. The house was quiet, but this time it felt safe. She looked at her phone for a long time. Messages from family still came sometimes. Some tried to guilt her. Some asked her to fix things. Some acted like nothing had happened. She didn't reply to any of them. Instead, she opened each thread and slowly blocked them one by one. No dramatic goodbye. No explanation. Just silence. Final. Clean. Enough. Alara realized something important in that moment. Family isn't just blood. It's safety. It's trust. It's protection. And when those things are gone, so is the bond. She set the phone down and took a deep breath. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't waiting for anyone's approval. She wasn't asking for understanding. She wasn't hoping to be heard. She was done. No more chances. No more excuses. Months passed slowly after everything ended. Life didn't become perfect overnight. It didn't erase what happened. But for the first time, Alara felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace in small moments. Milo started therapy. At first, he didn't understand why he had to go. He would sit quietly in the room, holding his hands tightly, unsure of the new space. But little by little, things changed. He began to speak more freely. He started sleeping better. The fear in his eyes didn't disappear completely, but it slowly faded with time. At home, Alara created a new routine for him. Simple things. Breakfast together. School drop-offs. Bedtime stories. Small, steady habits that made him feel safe again. And slowly, something beautiful returned. Laughter. At first, it was rare. Soft giggles during cartoons. A small smile during dinner. But each one felt like a victory. Alara watched him carefully, always aware, always patient. She never rushed his healing. She just stayed beside him, every single step of the way. Her own life changed too. Without her family in it, everything felt different. Quieter, but also lighter. There were no more draining phone calls. No more arguments. No more excuses she had to listen to or fight against. She focused on work again, on building stability, on becoming stronger not just as a mother, but as a person. There were hard days, of course. Days when memories came back unexpectedly. But she didn't let them pull her under anymore. She had learned where her strength was. It was in protecting her son, not in pleasing people who refused to see the truth. One evening, as the sun set outside their window, Milo walked over to her while she was folding laundry. He stood there quietly for a moment, then stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her. Alara froze for a second, surprised. Then she hugged him back. Tightly. Warmly. Milo's voice was soft against her shoulder. You didn't let her hurt me anymore. Those words stayed in the air like something sacred. Alara closed her eyes. And in that moment, everything became clear. All the pain. All the loss. All the choices. It wasn't revenge that mattered. It was protection. It was truth. It was refusing to stay silent when it counted the most. She gently pulled back and looked at her son. His eyes were calmer now. Safer. Alara smiled through tears she didn't try to hide. No, she whispered. I didn't. And for the first time, she understood fully. She didn't lose her family. She saved the only one that truly mattered. If this story taught you anything, it's that protecting children means speaking up, even when it's hard. Abuse should never be hidden or excused as discipline. Always trust warning signs, seek help early, and prioritize safety over silence. Stand strong, because awareness can save a life and break harmful cycles.